Hello, my friends, and let's dive right into the situation on the front lines because the Russians' activity isn't decreasing, and within a day, 105 assaults were recorded. And over the past week, the Russians managed to seize 104 square kilometers, so that's a lot. So just to remind you, last week they captured around 150 square kilometers. And before that, it was around 50 and 30 square kilometers. And essentially, every week, almost unnoticed, but the advancement is slow and they continue to capture territory. And let's start with the direction from Kharkiv, because here they conducted 11 attacks and battles ongoing in the Vovchansk area. So after capturing the village of Staritsa, they are attempting to secure positions in the forest to advance along the river later on. However, the Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to hold the defense, and there have been no changes within the day. But the Russians are not ceasing to reinforce because 50,000 soldiers have been thrown into the front section, and naturally attacks involve several dozen occupants. Consequently, with such a large formation, they last a long time, even with significant losses. Further west, so the occupiers are advancing in the area of the village of Liptsi. In the fields, but after a significant breakthrough, they haven't achieved new successes, and for now the situation has stabilized. So Ukrainian forces conducted counterattacks here, causing considerable damage to the Russians and successfully repelling new assaults today. So additional shelling continues along the entire front line. So the Russians are using both artillery and aviation with guided bombs. In the Kupyansk direction. So attacks on Sinkivka and also on Ivanivka continue. So 5 assaults within the day. And additional, the Russians once again struck Petropavlivka. So it seems they are destroying the village again to attempt a storm. But so far, there is no changes along the front line within the day. In the Svatova direction, battles are ongoing in the area of Berestova, and they are trying to break through to Stelmachivka, but no changes along the front line were recorded within the day. In the Kreminna direction, so Russian plans to push the Ukrainian forces across the river have failed, and several months of assaults have been unsuccessful, and now only shelling of Zarichna and the forest near Kreminna is reported, so there is ongoing regrouping and reinforcement of reserves for new attacks. But meanwhile, in the Seversk direction, after several days of relative calm, the Russians have resumed assaults, so 22 attacks within the day, and it's evident they have brought in reserves, and now they're actively advancing towards Bilohorivka, also Verkhnyokamyansk, and attempting to break through near Vyimka and towards Verkhnyokamyansk to encircle the Ukrainian forces, which they cannot dislodge from the outskirts of Spirne. And battles are also reported for Rozdolivka, but there have been no changes along the front line within the day, and the fighting continues. In the direction of Chasiv Yar, active fighting persists, but it's evident that the Ukrainian forces have managed to hold the Russian advance. And despite practically reaching the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, the Ukrainian forces repel all attacks, and today the Russians are attempting to assault the areas of Kalinivka and Ivanivska and Klishchiivka. So, however, there have been no changes along the front line as before. In the direction of Pokrovsk, so the occupiers are trying to capitalize on their success in the area of Ocheretine. So here they are attacking Yevhenivka and attempting to break through to the village of Vovchi. And engaged in battles for the village of Sokil. And periodic attacks on Netailove are also reported, but the Russians haven't achieved new successes despite conducting 25 assaults within the day, and the attacks persist practically around the clock. So in the Kharkiv direction, the occupiers are attempting to assault Kharkiv and also Paraskovivka, but they haven't achieved any success in the area of Krasnohorivka. So the northern part of the city remains under the control of the Ukrainian forces. In the Vuhledar direction, so attacks are still reported on Staromayorsky. Otherwise, along the front line, there are shallow incidents, but no new advances by the Russians. In the Zaporizhia direction. So the situation remains unchanged and only shallow incidents are reported, and the Russians are not conducting any new assaults after capturing Robotyne. So in the Kherson direction, battles continue for the village of Krinky. On the left bank and shallow of the right bank also persist, and every day civilians are affected, but the Russians continue to target peaceful cities. Meanwhile, political analyst Michael Pillsbury said that the rapprochement between China and Russia is a strategic nightmare. So let's listen. I think the Ukraine but unfortunately, we are already seeing the grim consequences of the friendship between Russia and China. So they are helping Russia survive sanctions in a very serious way. And friends, today we have some very interesting news about the Iranian president. So as you already know, his helicopter crashed, and initially they said he was alive. Then Iranian media deleted the announcement, but as it's already known, he and all the people on board perished. So why am I talking about this, and what could it all mean? So at the very least, there could be changes in the situation between Israel, the Gaza sector, and Yemen, because Iran effectively controlled and sponsored all these wars. And now there is a possibility of some changes, although it's not certain whether they'll be for the better. But we'll wait and see how things unfold. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.